all of this hair in less than 5 minutes.
Unlock your full potential by following your passion at Orange Coast College. Whether you dream of pursuing a career in technology, culinary arts, business, or beyond, OCC will support your journey every step of the way. With over 130 programs, exceptional faculty, and state-of-the-art
Big things are happening at Mathis Home. Save all summer long with price drop alerts all over the store. Their suppliers have cut prices and they're passing those savings on to you. Get new lower prices with top name recliners as low as $199. Plus, get 12 months no interest financing. Check out these price drop alerts and save at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
Chupa Chups, forever fun.
Fellas looking for a quarterback?
Go!
These do bring out mouths.
Dix is the GOAT.
Pizza Hut is about to hook you up with more of what you love. Because when you order any pizza, we'll hook you up with a free pizza later. That's a pizza now and a free pizza later. Get even more with the Hut Hookup. Order now, only on the Pizza Hut app. No one out-pizzas the Hut.
I'm stylish. Got 'em all wild. Stylish. Got 'em all wild. I'ma do it big. Pull up on 'em like I ain't playing around. Tell 'em we gon' come through, we gon' slay the sound.
Jr., late birds get the bag. After 8 p.m. for $5.99, get a Cali Classic single, fries plus chicken stars. Or spicy chicken sandwich, onion rings plus chicken stars. Or mix it up, just $5.99. Build your own bag only at Carl's Jr.
Artlist's AI voiceover feature allows you to turn your words into voices you never thought you had. Simply pick one out of the many voices that
trying to make flashy edits like this, I also get pretty intimidated, and that's where Motion Array comes in. Motion Array is packed with exclusive assets designed in collaboration with some of the biggest names in the creative world. You need some fonts? Got them. LUTs handcrafted by expert colorists? Got that too. They have everything you need to make your edits absolutely slick. And finding everything you need is super easy. Everything's organized very nicely. You can even use plugins to use it with your editing software. They have new filters online so you can find everything so much faster. Need AI voiceovers for a temp edit? Put
a visitor. Indeed, I have slept long enough. And I must admit, I'm curious about your skills. Come forth, child, and die.
Listen, paying $14.99 a month for a streaming app, and $9.99 a month for a music app, and $12.99 for a fitness app, and more money for a bunch of other apps?
Some of you may have heard, but a while back, Jacob and their team created a little something called Pokemon Too Many Types. It's just a normal game of Pokemon Emerald, but you might notice some things are just a little bit different. Everyone has talked about how chaotically fun this game is, and I finally found the time to play it myself. Let me tell you, everyone was right. This was the most insane, backwards, chaotic playthrough of Pokemon I've had in quite some time. Professor Birch is being mauled by a dog in the grass right outside my house for the millionth time, and after digging around in his stuff, I helped myself to a Poplio. But not just any Poplio, for you see, this one is silly. Obviously, I blast the Anki Poochyena to smithereens, and with that, have now earned the freedom to explore the world on my own. Yep, it's dawning on me that I have no idea how anything works anymore. Trainers had all these new Pokemon, they're pulling out moves I've never seen before, types don't line up the way I'm familiar with. It genuinely felt like I was playing Pokemon for the very first time again. Weasel is Water Fluffy, Snom is Ice Bean, Machop is fighting Stinky. Papio, give that thing a shower, it reeks. Oh, that's super effective. I suppose that makes a lot of sense. Going into this game, I decided not to look at the type chart at all, which by the way looks like this. I'm gonna have to unfortunately use my brain and logic to figure out how to win every single battle until I'm the champion, which may be a bit trickier than you would even guess. For example, this Impidimp. He has now been turned into a dark gamer Uno reverse type. naturally. I figured Gamer might work similarly to the Stinky type and be weak to water. That makes sense, right? Alright, well, look, I didn't make the game, alright guys? I'm just figuring out the riddles. However,
let's see what Gamer has to say against water type. Take a shower. What? It's got... What?
So here's the logic you gotta think about. Not only is it a Gamer type, it is an Uno reverse game.
Oh.
Yeah, of course.
yeah, as much as I might think I know how things would work, you're gonna witness that it doesn't always pan out the way it seems. I scooped myself up a Krabby, which, as you can see, is no longer water type, and entered the Rustboro Forest only to be challenged by a Team Aqua Grunt with a single snow runt. I wasn't worried until I realized the hard way that despite its silliness, Poplio still doesn't like grass, and crabs don't mix well with ice. Wiping this early in a Pokemon game is genuinely so humbling, and I don't like it at all. Honestly, I didn't even want to tell you that it happened in the first place, but we run it back because this isn't a Nuzlocke, and my little pets are perfectly healthy after being dunked on. This time, we send the grunt hightailing it back into the bushes. Despite feeling dumb and stupid and pathetic for wiping to a level 9 Team Aqua Grunt with one Pokemon, I waltzed into the first gym with my chest out like I earned being there. As most of you know, Roxanne is typically a rock type trainer, but she's now studied the ways of the ancient type Pokemon, which I didn't think would be much different until she completely steamrolled me.
Oh shit. I got Doggy, but Doggy isn't gonna do too much here. God damn it. Waste of a turn. No!
Her Laleep is crazy. Sus ancient grass type? How was I supposed to predict that one? What even is that? Now aware of the threat she had in her back pocket, I was able to navigate the rematch with Krabby the Fossil Killer, earning us our very first gym badge. Also, Geodude is boring ugly rock. I just wanted to share that one with the room. We took a nice boat ride over to Dewford where we got to meet lots of new friends in the local cave like Plink, the Prime Steel Guys, and Sableye, the gamer, who has a little bit of an Easter egg attached to it.
Someone just pointed something out. Okay, we'll use trade. Yeah.
Oh my God.
When you move, yep.
After saying hi and bye to Steven doing who knows what all alone with his cave rocks, we headed off to challenge Brawly. I opened the gym doors and was immediately hit with a wall of pure disgusting stench. Trying not to physically decay, we crawled through the gym's maze and were met by Stink Master Brawly and his smelly ass team. Krabby knocked his Mankey out cold, but Sock came out and started
Stressed out? Time to refresh your rhythm with Trident.
Krabby knocked his Mankey out cold, but Sock came out and started overwhelming my Pokemon one after the other.
Get so much knowledge. Oh my god.
Like, why wouldn't it be?
So you can imagine I am not happy that this stupid thing is sweeping my team right now. Luckily, the Vulpix I caught earlier was able to tank its hits with its new Fluffy type, and together with our own little stinker of a Stunky, we were able to finish the fight. I snatched that badge from Brawly's greasy hand and basically swam to Slateport myself to wash the fumes off my clothes. To dissociate that disgusting experience away, I went and caught myself a new friend. A ground friend, to be specific, as well as a little fluffy Stuffle. We also got to kick out Team Aqua, who was holding the poor Slateport museum lady hostage with a gun. Thank God they were only armed with a harmless water gun horsey, because I do not want to know what dealing with an actual threatening gun-type Pokemon would even look like. Battling more trainers on the route up to Mauville got me back into the mood to take on the third gym, so I shoved Wally out of the way and headed up to Watson. Things started off normal, but quickly spiraled out of control because after Sableye beat up his Porygon, Watson immediately brought out his ace. You know, his famous star Pokemon, Whimsicott. And this thing just starts spamming its new move called Hype Train. Yep, Watson specializes in Prime-type Pokemon, which would definitely be a funny little hint hint, nudge nudge if I was streaming this on Twitch. But alas, here we are. Unfortunately, one cannot gift Prime subs to a YouTube channel. Sadly, all you can do is click the subscribe button. Isn't that just a shame? Well, whether you click the button or not, I got wrecked by this cotton ball. Hype Train works the same as Rollout, where each consecutive use gets stronger and stronger, and this Whimsicott must have had some sort of aimbot on, because it didn't miss a single one. It literally demolished my team the second it stepped onto the battlefield. I was also a bit unprepared and forgot to level everyone up, so let's just forget that fight even happened. Like, it wasn't even fair, so it doesn't count. Round 2 was where the real action was. This battle was much more neck and neck. Knowing what Watson's tactics were going into the fight, I was able to play around it much more easily. Jaden doesn't fall for the same charade more than one time. I'm like an AI learning machine, alright? I never lose the same fight don't look at that. With Watson defeated, I was now one step closer to becoming the strongest trainer in all of this topsy-turvy hole. I caught myself a Honedge, Swablu, and Skarmory while scaling the mountain, and even had time to smack the Team Magma nerds around while heading to Lava Ridge. To avoid another embarrassing under-leveled situation, I got everyone up to Flannery's level cap for a nice, clean, fair fight.
That's like, I think the thing that is hardest for me, oh god, reading comprehension. I think that's what I've decided on. My god!
Oh wow.
My crabs! Buddy! Holy shit! What is the downside of this mystic fire? I'm just so weak to fire. And warm hugs. Do I have to wipe to every gym? Flannery.
She's mean.
I don't know what that Ninetales is eating, but that thing is not normal. After changing absolutely nothing about my strategy and just running back into the gym directly from the Pokemon Center, I demanded a rematch. Like, her team of fluffy Pokemon aren't that tough. I just wasn't ready to be paralyzed and incinerated the whole fight by her puppies and kitties and that roided up monster of a Ninetales. This time, Kingler and Sandslash were able to double team Flannery's fluffy team with much more ease, earning us the Heat Badge. With half the gyms now defeated, it was finally time to deal with some long overdue family matters. It's well known that our father Norman abandoned our home to be a gym leader in Petalburg, leaving me and mom back at the house alone. Little Root has like 5 people living in it, and one of them's a huge nerd. That's like a social death sentence for a growing child, and I am filled with a burning desire for justice. After all this time, all those days of having nothing to do but watch Birch go into the same stupid patch of grass and get mauled by the same stupid dog over and over and over, I get to walk into Norman's gym and challenge him as an equal. Whatever reasoning he had to leave us is gonna be revealed in our battle. And it better be good. It better be good. I walked through the doors. The air was weird and tense. Each trainer I battled looked at me like they already knew exactly who I was and shifted their glance away out of embarrassment, shame. What is going on here? Not even the helpful gym guy had anything to say to me. He wouldn't even tell me the type theme of the gym. I burst through those final doors to find Norman looking out his windows at the horizon. He's been waiting for me.
Are you ready to fight Norman? This very fun and normal gym. Have you not picked up on it yet?
I haven't picked up on anything.
Say just keep going.
What is he gonna do? What Pokemon do we have? Floatzel? Okay. I don't get it. What is this riddle?
I'm just watching.
Glomp? Is it because he's only using attacks that are cute and family-like?
No.
Lopunny. You can't be a fluffy trainer. That was what Flannery was. Puddle Slam. No. Fluffy furry. He said, is he a furry trainer?
Yes.
No. Norman.
Can't a man have hobbies?
Look, there's nothing wrong with being a furry. Many of my friends are furries, but to abandon your family to selfishly pursue your passion for Lucarios and Vaporeons and Lopunnies, Norman, how could you? You tore our family apart. And for what? Glomps and colon 3s? Admittedly, his team was too strong for me. The bond he shared with those Pokemon was unlike anything I've seen yet, and I was gonna have to go back to the drawing board if I was ever gonna defeat a divorced man and his beloved furries. I switched around some of my Pokemon, headed back in, and again began the onslaught of devastating glomps and cuddle slams, weaving through paralyzing warm hugs and even the occasional cute charm. Eventually, it came down to our last Pokemon.
Okay. Slash.
Oh.
No! Shadow Sneak, please.
You have a chance here.
Please. Yes!
Now that my furry father has been vanquished, I was filled with an overwhelming energy and drive. It was like I unlocked a version of myself that was capable of defeating anyone and everything in front of me. I beat up all of Team Aqua that was infiltrating the Weather Institute, cleared Winona's song and dance gym without breaking a sweat. Maxie stole the blue orb to awaken Groudon like an idiot, so I had to teach him a lesson. Again.
You're gonna use the wrong orb, idiot. Why do you think the blue orb would be good for Groudon? He hates blue!
Team Aqua Rats did the exact same thing, so I had to do the exact same thing to them. I was on a roll. It felt like I was back in my element, finally familiar with the types, and was absolutely thriving. We pulled up to Tate and Liza's gym, ready to let nothing slow us down, except it looks like they specialize in a type I hadn't seen up until this point, space. Well, time to slow down. Since I didn't have anything that could really handle space Pokemon, I went and caught myself a Buffalar, because everyone knows Ohio type is good against space. I mean, come on. As well as prepared Sandslash and Stunky for the fight. I wasn't too confident, but made my way to the gym leader's room to find Clay. Where's Tate and Liza? Aren't you supposed to be in Unova? I wasn't anticipating this, but I guess I should just start expecting the unexpected from this game.
It's a double, okay, it's still a double battle. 41, oh, we lose. Definitely lose. Gun time, this isn't space? Wait, what the f is going on here? I don't know what's good against gun. That is a song, sure, we'll just do that. Shoot! What the? He just shot my Goyle. He shot my guy again. That's so much damage for not very effective. We'll just do that. Oh, he's dead. He's so dead. Bare arms? Oh, God. What is this? Dude, this guy's fighting me with the Constitution.
So this isn't actually a space-type gym like I was originally led to believe. This is, in fact, a gun gym. And I am being blasted to Kingdom Come by Mr. Red, White, and Blue over here. I failed to expect this level of unexpected, but how could I? We switched around my team again, this time for a high noon duel battle, headed back in, but honestly, it wasn't looking that great on attempt 2 of fighting a man with assault weapons.
And air cutter again. No! No! Take it, boys. Take it. Ah! Stop! How can you do this? There's nothing I can do about it. There's fucking nothing. This fight sucks balls. Whatever.
I genuinely think this Clay fight was the most out of left field, chaotic, flabbergasting Pokemon battle I've gone through in my entire career as a Pokemon player. I don't think anything Pokemon could create would ever elicit the kind of shock and despair I felt fighting Clay, the Driftvale gym leader, in my Pokemon Emerald game.
Okay, I don't think this is enough. Yeah, oh, he went against Ari. That's so lucky. Oh. Is this it? Yes! Clay, you rootin' tootin' fucking asshole. I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to you. Get me out of here. I basically crawl out the gym with my badge like I just got out of a fight with Wile E. Coyote, because I basically did, and now I gotta go deal with whatever commotion Team Magma is creating in the space station. Withered and tired, I walk up the stairs to Maxie and Steven arguing about God knows what at this point. Girls, I'm gonna give it to you straight. I'm having a bit of a day. We all know we're just gonna hash this out in a battle, so let's just cut the chit chat. Steven, get your ass over here. And after all of what I just went through, you guys are not going to believe what Steven put me through in that cursed space center. Yeah, so the first fight, I went into it unprepared because I didn't know the team Maxie and Friend were packing. So that was a bit of an unfortunate disadvantage. It's alright, we run it back, but this is where things go drastically downhill. Hyper voice. Steven, you're just leaving me in the trenches? Why even try at this point? Thunder? Oh my fucking god, Steven, you idiot. Why do they only go against me? Why do they only go against me? Steven, you are the fucking Elite Four champion of Hoenn. Don't use Thunder on Aggron. It doesn't, in no world is it ever good. I swear to God, Steven. You're actually joking. Steven, you're my guy. I've always had your back. I've been Team Steven since day one. But what in the world was that? This is not the playstyle of the region champion, buddy. Get up. Don't talk to me. I need some air. To blow off some much needed steam, I infiltrated Team Aqua's hideout because Archie apparently didn't get the memo of my threat of a knuckle sandwich if he ever tried to use bread on Blue Kyogre. Knuckle sandwich is delivered, but unfortunately, too late. Kyogre is already halfway across the Pacific Ocean to go drown Groudon. Can any of you adults do anything right? Hello? Earth to Archie's brain? It's hollow! I scaled the sky tower to wake up Rayquaza and rat on the siblings duking it out in the middle of Sootopolis. Off he flew, and after a bit of non-gentle parenting, the two slinked back in their rooms in shame. Yay! Land and sea across the globe are safe once again. If I catch your asses playing with these fucking orbs again, I swear. Even though it was the 8th and final gym before taking on the Elite Four, Juan wasn't an issue. For some competitors, he could have been difficult because he actually ran a full-on crab team. Very intimidating. But I've also got a crab. And my crab is stronger than his crabs, so we won. After all I've gone through, this was the hardest I've had to claw my way to the Elite Four in a long time. But that just means victory is gonna taste oh so much sweeter. I entered Victory Road anticipating an easy dungeon clear, but from the shadows emerged Wally. I've beaten you before, I can beat you again. Holy
Just because they're identical doesn't mean they have identical needs. That's why...
I've beaten you before, I can beat you again. Holy mother! Okay, maybe that one was a bit of a fluke. I wasn't ready. This time, we'll... Turns out, Wally's tough. I didn't expect it, but he really is. This made me realize I'm not prepared for everything with my current roster of Pokemon, and if I'm gonna become the champion, I need to make some big changes. I've been swapping around my team pretty casually over the course of my adventure, but after locking in, I decided on this as my final roster. Primarina, Kingler, Aegislash, Beware, and 2 new members of Darmanitan, the Angie Fire Monkey, and Duraludon, the, you guessed it, gun. I've seen the power of being able to pull up with a gun. I think I'm gonna need that in the fights that are ahead of me. With these changes, I was able to rematch Wally and take home the win this time. This is it. These guys are my team, and they're the ones I'm gonna become the best with. While doing some final training before the Elite Four, there was just a little tiny, unexpected hiccup along the way. What was that? Oh my, Freddy, you would never. You would never. I'll get rid of Earthquake for Bite of 87. 5 Nights? What? What the?
Parasol.
Oh my, Freddy, what am I turning into? You're not like this, Freddy.
For those of you who are unaware, Five Nights is basically an unhinged version of Perish Song, where after 5 turns, both Pokemon on the battlefield are hit by a 250 base power attack. And Bite of 87 is straight up a brand new one-hit KO move, where if you get bit, you die instantly. But there's only a 30% chance of it actually connecting. High risk, high reward type. Equipped with a plethora of new threatening moves and mons, my team was now prepared for the final gauntlet. I flashed my badges to the guards and took a step into Sydney's domain. I like that look you're giving me. Let's have a good map. As someone once taught me, you gotta be prepared for the gun. Phoebe was up next with her gamer Pokemon, and even though I was able to take down her team with my loaded Duraludon and shower-giving Primarina, the highlight of the fight was when she brought out a Freddy Fazbear of her own.
Huge win. Beware? Oh, it's Freddy v. Freddy here. It's gotta be Freddy v. Freddy. And you know what Freddy does. Oh, he got the first one! He got it! That's my fucking Freddy right there. Doesn't miss. He hits that frontal lobe every fucking time.
I walked into Glacier's room. Larry, the third fight was against Larry, who normally is a gym leader and Elite 4 member in Paldea, but looks like he also works for Hoenn. He's 3 full-time jobs? That cannot be legal. You gotta talk to HR. He led with a golem that only knew stealth rocks and explosion, which is chaotically hilarious. But right after that, he sent out a wall of a slacking that took out my Duraludon, Primarina, and Aegislash. Finally, Kingler was able to knock it out after pulling off a few dragon dances. Crab raves. Since I basically had a crab bazooka on my hands, Kingler just swept him from there. After the Larry jump scare, I didn't even know what to expect for the final member. It could genuinely be anyone. Cynthia? Red? Clay butt again?
What? No! You're joking! He's in the fucking vent. No, wait, I was facing the wrong way.
I didn't know that's what happened. But I'll be honest.
I flashed for simply going about my E4 challenge, but Elite 4 Sussy Baka and his sus team went dummy mode on me.
I'm scared, so I shoot. Oh no! Wait, this isn't good. This thing's gotta go. No, he's faster! What? I thought... No! Where is he? Ooh, nice trick. No, they all bend! Stop bending. I do. No! He avoided it! No! Krabby, I'm sorry! Ah!
I was not anticipating a battle where their whole strategy was to hide in vents scattered all over the room, and when they popped out, they hit like trucks. Not even my Five Nights attack could hit them in the vents, which meant I was just getting my own mons attacked by animatronics. Admittedly, we were vaporized. But shut up! There's nothing in the rules about trying again. It's not a Nuzlocke. I refused to call it there because I will not let my legacy end with... See that girl? She was on her way to become the next Hoenn champion, but she couldn't get past Elite 4 member Sussy Baka. Poor thing. The second battle went much better because not only was I able to play around all the venting, but halfway through the fight, Kingler finally learned a better crab move. This whole time, I was being forced to use 50 base power Vice Grip, but now that we've got 100 base power... grip, but now that we've got 100 base power crab hammer, it was lights out for these imposters. And with that, it was time. All that stood left in front of me was the champion, Wallace. Which makes sense because Steven was definitely fired after that maxi fight. Out came his first Pokemon, which was a simple Wynot. Now let me explain something here, because this thing is far more threatening than you could ever believe. This game has introduced so many new types into the world of Pokemon. Many of them are extremely powerful, but there's one type that reigns amongst them all the absolute worst, and that's baby type. It's pretty self-explanatory which Pokemon fall under the baby category. Igglybuff, Cleffa, Budew, Bonsley, literally the baby Pokemon. You know what this type is weak to? Literally like all of them. Think about it. If you hit a baby with anything, they're gonna be taking damage. It's a baby. So now you're probably thinking, okay, so why does the final boss of Hoenn lead with why not the baby type? It's also Uno Reverse. That's right, every single type effectiveness against this thing is now flipped. It's a defensive monster, just waiting to counter and mirror coat your whole team to death for simply breathing on it too hard. I was genuinely so scared of this thing, I Dragon-tailed it out of there. That's a nightmare for another time. Zlatios got dragged out, which is crazy to say I was relieved to see compared to that masochist of a Wynot, but of course, it's still a Latias, so it takes out my Duraludon with a single Thunderbolt. Kingler comes out to finish it off, so next came Silvally, which I'll just let you watch how this one played out.
I don't think I'd get past this thing. What even is this type? Type Emerald? I don't even know what that is. That's gotta be this type.
So, type is more of a onslaught. It's just double all types.
Oh shit. Until I die here. What?
Sometimes, let's say the max is 999.
No.
Overflow the 180.
So, this is Darmanican died and came back to life, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, that gives us enough time to Banana Blitz again. Yeah!
We take those, alright? No, I don't want to hear it. We take those. The next chunk of the battle plays out pretty normally. Wallace did have some pretty scary Pokemon, including Steven's Metagross, he very likely lost custody of, until I was face to face with this stupid little bomb again. It tried everything it could to bait my Aegislash into attacking it, but we stayed patient. I knew I had a single shot at this, so Aegislash charged up as many swords dances as it could muster before slicing that thing to the moon. A final beast entered the ring. A true abomination called Sans Shedinja. This is the only Pokemon in the dex with the Sands type, and it can only be touched by a very small selection of types. A tried and true nightmare. Unfortunately for you, Wallace, I've played the genocide route of Undertale. I know exactly what it's gonna take to bury this thing for good. And he's right here. It's a beautiful day, Sans Shedinja, but insects like you should be burning in hell! I did it. The strongest Pokemon trainer in this wacky world of Hoenn is me. It took so much more than I thought it would to be here. Way more humiliating wipes than I'd like to admit. I lost a lot of battles, but shut up, you try playing it then. With the power of friendship, logic, determination, and maybe just a little bit of love, We've beaten Pokemon too many types. And with that, we're pretty much wrapping up on 2024. This was a big Jaden year for many personal and content-related reasons, and I just wanted to say thank you guys, as always, for watching.
Here at Urban Plates, we prefer the barbecue. It really adds a nice smoky flavor to it and gives that little char.
So if you're new here, hi. I've done this before. Last year I made a video. You know the drill.
Remember when Pokemon sent me every single one of their Gen 5 sitting cuties for me to rank? Turns out they really liked that video. So much, in fact, that they said, "Hey Jaden, awesome video. Why don't you come to Japan to watch the Pokemon 2023 World Championships?" Our treat. You won't have to pay for your flights or hotel or nothing. I've been to Japan once before in my entire life, and it was back in 2018 with my family. We did a bunch of fun little Japanese tourist things. It was a phenomenal trip, but ever since then, I've always wanted to go back and do all the awesome nerdy stuff Japan has to offer that I didn't want to bother my family with. At the time, they didn't even know who Luffy was. They would have been so lost. So when Pokemon extended their hand and offered to fly not only me, but Jacob out to attend the biggest Pokemon tournament in the world, I jumped for joy. Free trip to Japan! The tournament was only going on for a single weekend, but Jacob and I planned to stay there for 3 whole weeks to do a bunch of said extra nerdy stuff. We were pumped. Eventually the time came, Jacob and I were packing up all our stuff, and decided we both would bring an extra suitcase so we could treat ourselves a bit and buy a bunch of cool stuff while we're there. Don't judge us, we're anime and Nintendo-loving impulse buyers going to Japan. A game plan was needed. We were being responsible. 2 extra suitcases was definitely gonna be enough. Yep. Equipped with our extra luggage, we headed off to the airport. Pokemon straight up gave us business class seats. We didn't ask for them or anything. So when we boarded, we realized we had the seats where you could lay down. There even was some sort of seat divider that acted like a car window, so I could roll it down and bother Jacob whenever I wanted. Quick little 11-hour flight later, and we were in Japan. It was time to have the best trip of our lives. I'm not joking. I had the most incredible trip and got to do things I won't ever forget. And I won't, because I've now plastered it onto the internet forever. We landed midday Japan time, so we decided to go to the first thing we wanted to see while abroad. Japanese McDonald's. I couldn't order anything except fries, but Jacob and I both dropped our jaws when we saw something called the Double Big Mac on the menu. I thought Americans already went big with the Big Mac, but Japan did the impossible, just to send a message. What a magical place. Let's begin with the next morning. Pokemon planned a bunch of cool stuff for the creators and partners they flew out, beginning with a group field trip to the Mega Tokyo Pokemon Center. Jacob and I woke up early for it and missed the bus they had for us. And it totally wasn't completely my fault entirely, because I hypothetically didn't read the schedule correctly and was taking my sweet time getting ready. Why would you think that? So we had to take the trains on our own to get there. Anyone that remembers my first Japan trip knows the trains were me and my family's mortal enemy #1. We kept getting it wrong, and it was failure after failure the entire trip. You'd think that with all that prior experience and struggle, I would have grown as a Japanese train understander, right? Nope.
A sweet tarts broke, so sweet, you'll pucker. Sweet tarts, dare to combine.
Oh, we got on the wrong train. But at least we were having a good time. After a lot of freaking out and mental strain and regrets, we finally arrived at our destination, and although by the time we got there they had already finished looking at the Pokemon Center, we were able to grab a quick snack with the group at the Pokemon Sweets Cafe. I meant to take a picture of the Pikachu waffle before I ate half its cranium, but I forgot, so this is what you get. Now that we were with the group, we were able to travel with them for the rest of the day, so we packed into the bus and headed off to a traditional tea ceremony where we were taught all about how the tea masters would make tea and tea etiquette, and all these things about the significance of tea in Japanese culture, all while getting to taste the tea the tea master made. Again, I meant to take this picture before I took a chunk out of the little sweet they gave us, but here we are yet again. I'm just not that great at this. They also served us a really special lunch of super fancy bento boxes, like so fancy that the host was like, dude, I've never even had these bento boxes before. I was super excited, but
I don't mean to be ungrateful or wasteful, but the box was full of super fancy, complicated fish and seafood. I knew going to Japan I'd have to be flexible with food because it's really hard to be vegan or even vegetarian there, so I really tried to eat as much as possible and look thankful. But yeah, I struggled a lot. But I still had a great time and it was an honor. We were dropped off at the Yokohama Chinatown and left to explore a bit until dinner in a few hours. Everyone separated into groups and Jacob, Stepan, the guy that sent me all the sitting cuties, you guys remember him, the guy named Steve, and I went and pursued the street food a bit before stumbling into a little arcade with a bunch of crane machines. I got this silly little bear minifigure. His name's Chico, so I decided to innocently carry him around in my pocket for the entirety of the trip. You know, because he was silly. This single action severely changed the course of my mental stability going forward. You'll see soon enough. But look at these cute photos I got with him. We had a great dinner, headed back to the hotel, got to hang out with our good old Pokemon rival Jan a bit, and called it a night. The next day we all got to do some private shopping at the Pokemon World's pop-up shop. I'll just say we bought way too much stuff that we also don't regret in the slightest. I even got this video of Jacob grabbing more and more sitting cuties as the workers kept reorganizing them to keep the display looking perfect. We walked out of there with 3 giant bags of stuff. But it's okay because remember, we anticipated this with our extra suitcases, which I am starting to wonder if they are going to be enough, but surely we will come down. We were then all taken to the creatures' offices. You know, just the place where they make Pokemon cards. It was gorgeous in there. They had these awesome sculptures of giant Pokemon cards with crystals, and all the walls were lined with 3D card art. It felt like I was in a building with a lot of significance. Because I was. We got a tour around the building, met the TCG card testers, and were able to ask them questions about the process. Even got to have a little Q&A session with Atsushi Nagashima, the game director of the Pokemon TCG. It was funny, one of the people in our group asked how they chose which Pokemon to make cards for. A good question. And then followed it up with, I really like Mantyke, but there's only 2 Mantyke cards that exist. And the assistant pulled up a list of all the Pokemon Mantyke cards that have ever been created, and sure enough, there were only 2. The director chuckled and was essentially like, yeah, sometimes Pokemon get lost in the cracks. We kind of just make cards of Pokemon I like. For example, my favorite Pokemon is Gengar. And you know what? That actually makes a lot of sense. Also, we were able to have a Q&A session with the Pokemon card art director and 3 artists who actually draw art for the cards. That was super interesting, and I was so incredibly inspired by that discussion. But you know those Pokemon cards with the super cute play art? That artist's name is Yuka Mori, and she was in that panel. I was so starstruck. Those are some of my favorite Pokemon cards. And not only that, but she hosted a little workshop for us where she gave us clay and taught us how to make little clay Magnemites like in this card here. Speaking of this card, she brought the actual original Magnemite for us to see. That was by far the coolest thing that I've ever gotten to be a part of. We got to meet a piece of genuine history. I felt like I was meeting the president. Also, here's me and Jacob's Magnemites that we made. Day 3 of our little Pokemon field trip, and we were taken to another Pokemon Center. This time in Shibuya, which was also right across from a Nintendo store. It was like a bullet was shot through our credit cards. In the shopping center, I saw a little gacha machine with little miniature Chiikawa plushes. I was only interested in getting Chiikawa, but I decided to test my luck anyway. And I got him first try! Now I had 2 of them. Yes, the original was still in my pocket. You can safely assume he is in my pocket for the entirety of this video. I've got pictures to prove it. Jacob snapped this awesome picture of the Chiikawa brain rot taking over. When we were looking...
Organic and dairy-free? Woo! Woo!
Here we go.
3rd time today.
When we were before his mother quickly yanked him away, and I still to this day laugh at that interaction. Poor kid saw his first blonde guy in real life and immediately thought it was Sanji. Later that day, we also got to attend the Pokemon Symphony, where a live orchestra played Pokemon songs, and it was absolutely incredible. Video game orchestras are so cool. It always tugs on my heartstrings to see video game music transformed into such a beautiful new art form. Highly recommend attending one if you have any favorite games or franchises. On to the first day of Worlds. It was exciting. People flooded into the venue. We watched the opening ceremony in the crowd. Just wow. This is the whole reason why we're here. We went back to shopping. Look at this cute little Chico book I found in a nearby bookstore. At this point, we were absolutely pushing it in terms of luggage space, and we were day 4 into a 2.5-week trip. Our shopping sprees until this point were very not frugal, so we cut our losses and bought 2 extra giant suitcases to fit everything better. Okay, we knew we were gonna need extra suitcases. Getting a few extra couldn't hurt. Look, the flights were paid for. We were still saving money at this point, I think. That's my rationalization. I'm going with that. Also in the mall were tons of Pokemon monitors straight up playing the World Championships. TCG, Pokemon Go, VGC. Japan treated Worlds like it was the Super Bowl, and it was just so cool to see one of my main interests so culturally celebrated. People of all ages would stop by to watch for a bit before going back to their shopping. I can't explain it, but it just made me very happy. We even got to see Wolfie live on the monitors. How'd he do? He did great. Don't worry about it. Nothing happened. Look, we were just happy to see our friend on the Pokeball screen. Proud of you, Wolfie. You're so cool. The second day of Worlds was hype. So hype that we left Yokohama and flew to Osaka. I haven't mentioned it yet, but we actually got tickets to see the one and only Hatsune Miku live in concert. The real ones know how huge that is for me. I want to talk about how life-changing that was, but I'm gonna make a whole separate video about that experience I'll be posting next. All I'm gonna say is it was the best day of my entire life. By a lot. Subscribe now before you miss it, just saying. I will mention we did have to take the train to get back later that night, and got super lost again. And we never get better at it. Don't expect anything to change in that regard. We did finally get back to Yokohama, crashed for the night, and had a nice slow morning as we got ready for finals later that day. To any One Piece fans who are caught up, we were in Japan for the anime's history. Anyway, back to Pokemon, sorry about that. We were able to watch the final VGC match live, got to chat and eat dinner with Wolfie and some other friends, had a late night hangout with Jan again, and that was about it. Day 7 meant it was time to pack up all our stuff from the hotel, say goodbye to Pokemon and Yokohama, and head on over to the apartment we rented for the rest of our stay just outside of Tokyo. At this point, we had filled up all 6 suitcases and multiple backpacks. I didn't mention it, but Pokemon gave us a truckload of gifts that we genuinely had no idea what to do with. We're grateful nonetheless, thank you Pokemon. But yeah, the taxi ride was a bit awkward. So, are you meeting up with some friends? No. After we got situated in the new place, we decided to look around the area and grab some lunch. And I gotta say, the little hole-in-the-wall restaurant Jacob found was some of the best ramen I've ever had ever. They even made it vegetarian for me, which was extremely kind of them. Food modifying is a bit tricky in Japan compared to the States, so I was very, very thankful. And it was delicious! We then proceeded to do absolutely nothing for the rest of the day because we were exhausted from the trip so far. I haven't mentioned absolutely everything we'd been doing on the trip because it would be a lot of first we did this and it was cool, then we did this and it was cool. Even though it was such a pleasure to be invited, I was so dead and definitely looked super not approachable or friendly to the rest of the group by the end of it. Sorry, guys. But neither time nor Japan stops for anyone, so we had to keep on chugging along. There were a bunch of friends we wanted to see while in Japan, and one of them was Connor. He wanted to take us to what he deemed his favorite Italian place ever. I asked if it was like fancy Italian, to which I was given the answer of no. So we get there, having a great time, and suddenly we realize Junichi Masuda, the director of Game Freak, is there having dinner. Not a fancy dinner, my ass! I then look down to see the Freddy Fazbear FNAF t-shirt that I am wearing. Not the best Jaden moment to exist, but hey, what can you do? The food was phenomenal though. I already mentioned the best ramen I've ever had while on the trip, but this was genuinely the best pasta I've ever had in my entire life. Maybe even a top 3 meals ever for me. I don't know what the other 2 would be, but that Connor place is definitely up there. The next day we went to the One Piece store in Shibuya and bought a lot of stuff because there was a lot of topical and hype things in there, as you could imagine. If you don't get it, go catch up and come back. Don't worry, it won't take too long. My favorite character is Mihawk, but out of all the stuff the store had to offer, there were only a few stickers and a single keychain from Mihawk. I'm still mauling about that one. I just want more Mihawk. Is that too much to ask for? Even this guy got better merch. The world's greatest swordsman deserves better.
I guess I'll just take my Zoro and Law stuff. That's cool too, I suppose. I also found a bunch of Chikawa stuff in a Kittyland store, and this is truly when you get to see where things start going downhill for me. I just like the funny little cartoon bear thing. What, is that such a crime? I don't remember what we did the rest of the day. I think we just crashed and passed out. This trip, as surreal as it's been so far, has been absolutely taking a toll on me, and I desperately needed to just not move or talk or exist for a bit. We were doing so many different things that were all awesome, and hanging out with so many different people that were all awesome, but man, I am not built for extended periods of that much excitement and socializing. As much as I would like to change this fact, I'm also not a very active person. I know. Up until this trip, I was practically sitting down 24/7, working all the time to prep as much work as possible so I could have a guilt-free 3 weeks off, and my muscles were definitely starting to decay at that point. I looked at my phone's step meter thing, and there was one day where I literally got 300 steps. That's pathetic. And suddenly, I'm logging over 20,000 daily. My body was screaming. What the hell are you doing out there? Please stop. Plus, we were in Japan during the hottest, most humid time of the year. Every time we left the air-conditioned luxury of a building, we would immediately be drenched in sweat. Look, I'm used to the heat. I grew up in Arizona, but even this was too much. So yeah, crash and burn it was. Tokyo Disneyland was a bit underwhelming. It felt like a slightly worse version of the one in California because of the oddly spaced layout and surprisingly empty vibe. We did go to a Stitch-themed show thing, and as we were walking in, a worker stopped us and said, "Oh, excuse me, Stitch only speaks Japanese," like warning us it's not super tourist friendly. But I just think the statement of Stitch only speaks Japanese is hilarious. We went in anyway.
Your team's problems are becoming more complex, but with Lucid, you can collaborate from anywhere, get aligned, make big decisions, streamline.
We went in anyway, and yep, Stitch only spoke Japanese. Kazoku. Yeah, overall, it was not the best thing we did, but apparently, I didn't know this, Japan has two Disneys, Disneyland and Disney Sea, and we went to Land, which is unanimously deemed the worst of the two. So, oops, better luck next time. Jacob and I took 2 more rest days where we just turned to ash, then up and at 'em, back to Osaka we go. This time, we went to an Eve concert. Besides Hatsune Miku, the Japanese band Eve is the only other concert I've said I wanted to go see. I love their music videos they have for all their songs. It's always such beautiful animation. And by the way, they're the ones who sang the season 1 Jujutsu Kaisen anime opening theme, if you're lost. Earlier in the trip, Jacob just so happened to look up if they were doing a concert while we were there, and lo and behold, they were. He got some totally not scalped tickets, which turned out to be a super complicated process, so thank you, Jacob. You're the bestest friend I've ever had. Thank you for going through the trenches for silly old me. Anyway, the concert was so incredible. The atmosphere was fantastic. They had awesome visual effects going on. The glow bands a lot of people bought were perfectly synced to the music and colors on the stage, which really enhanced the experience. The music was great, which, I mean, of course it was. That was the whole reason we went in the first place. I talk about it more in the upcoming Miku video, but Japanese encores are so much different from the American ones. They're so quiet and polite. There was pretty much no screaming and cheering. It was just a long applause with a semi-whisper chant of "Encore! Encore!" And they also made us wait like 5 minutes for them to come back out. My hands were getting itchy just from clapping so much, that's how long it took. And then when they finally came out, they ended up doing like 5 extra songs. I mean, I'm not complaining, but after the 4th time thinking, man, that was a great last extra song. Well, time to head home. Wait. Another? It starts getting a bit comedic. This is just a side tangent, but Jacob went off to use the bathroom before the show started and came back 10 minutes later like, dude, this is crazy, but it took me a bit longer to find a bathroom because there were so many extra women's bathrooms, which is like, Whoa, that's actually so smart. There's always such a huge line for the women's bathroom compared to the men's in any scenario. I was just shocked Japan was like, okay, then we'll make more women's bathrooms to fix that problem. Like it was so simple. I know in America it would probably turn into a stupid political thing, but it made me so happy Japan just implemented such an obvious and straightforward solution so easily for the gals. The next day we headed over to Universal, which was hands down the best amusement park I've ever been to. So they can do amusement parks well. First of all, Universal Japan is way more anime and manga focused than the ones in the States, which made it instantly more engaging for me. Jacob and I both agreed we would window shop for the first part of the day, and then buy all the things we wanted as we were leaving so we wouldn't have to lug around a bunch of bags all day. But we immediately saw a little one-piece shop and cracked. We just wanted to wear these one-piece headbands. That's rule-breaking worthy. We also got some towels because, surprise, surprise, it was freaking hot. I know I've been complaining about the weather here and there, but my lord, it was miserably scorching. Japan has such a big culture around staying cool while outside, and I totally get it now. People would be walking around with little fans, ice packs, towels. A lot of women had parasols. I'll say, if we didn't get those towels, we probably could have passed out from heat stroke that day. Later on, I even ended up getting another towel. It was a cute Pikachu one, but I got it mainly because it was a cloak design. After soaking that thing in cold water and putting it on, my body temperature instantly lowered like 5 degrees. However, that meant I was walking around the park looking like this. Back to the awesome stuff. We did a bunch of attractions like watch a fun 4D Jujutsu Kaisen show where the seats move around, went on a super cool 3D VR Spider-Man ride. We tried to cool down by going on a Minions thing called Freeze Ray sliders that claimed to cool riders down with a blast of chilled mist from a giant freeze ray. But we got on and absolutely did not even touch a drop of the mist because it never ended up getting in range of our cart. That felt like an actual tragedy at the time. There were a few big roller coasters we wanted to go on, but I get super motion sick and forgot to bring nausea medicine, so no roller coasters for us. But I shall return one day. The park, of course, had a bunch of cool themed restaurants, one of them being a super cool One Piece restaurant. Did I mention I like One Piece? There also was a special Sanji one, but we didn't know you needed a reservation, so it was awesome though, I love One Piece. After a few hours of rides and being broiled alive, we decided to fully cool off by going on the Jurassic Park ride.
Listen, paying $14.99 a month for a streaming app, and $9.99 a month for a music app, and $12.99 for a fitness app, and more money for a bunch of other apps, that really adds up. So why not get YouTube Premium for just $30?
To fully cool off by going on the Jurassic Park ride. That's just giant splash mountain with dinosaurs. We cooked in line for probably a solid hour, and as soon as we were literally stepping foot inside the ride, it started pouring rain. Now that's just not fair. I don't even understand how that happened, but whatever. We started buying all the stuff we window shopped for as we waited for the One Piece live show to begin. Again, please refrain from judging. I am being vulnerable and open here. By the way, as we were walking around, we stumbled onto a little Mario-themed show just out in a courtyard area. They played some fun little custom songs and had all these dancers alongside the mascots. And then out of nowhere, they started absolutely blasting the crowd with like gallons of water. I didn't even see it coming. It was like firefighters showed up to put out a giant fire, except the fire was a bunch of Japanese people. The time came and we got to file in for the special One Piece live show, and even though Jacob and I didn't understand a single part of it because it was all in Japanese, it was awesome, and the costume design was phenomenal. It was a bit unfortunate though, because the seats were all in like a half circle formation around the stage. As much as they tried to make the show enjoyable from all angles, it was pretty hard to see the main things going on in the center. My only true complaint though is that Zoro didn't come to our side at all. All the other characters rotated around so we could see them, but Zoro only did it at the very end to take a bow. Also, Mihawk being included would have been nice, but it's okay. By the time we got to enter Nintendo Land, it was like 9 p.m. We got up at 6 a.m. by the way, so we pretty much just rode the Yoshi's Island ride they don't have in the States and headed home because that's all the energy we had left. But even just seeing that, it was miles better than the one in the States. Also, we picked up a little dinner at the 7-Eleven near our
hotel. 7-Eleven is actually awesome in Japan, by the way. And they had a few little Chicoa plushie keychains, and I bought them. Just being transparent here. We woke up early the next morning to catch our flight back to Tokyo and hurried over to the Kirby Cafe. Emily actually booked the reservation for us. She was meant to also be there, but she was only able to get 2 seats and gave them to us as a gift. Emily, I will always be indebted to you for your sacrifice. The cafe itself was so well decorated with all these little Kirby things, and the menu was adorable. I got the star curry and a magical little fruity drink with a Kirby marshmallow that triggered my cute aggression. Jacob got the pizza and a Kirby burger, but since he made modifications, the staff asked him to not post a picture of the burger to the public. Like, they didn't know he was a content creator or anything. I guess they just didn't want the public to see a naked Kirby burger. We also both got desserts. I already decided I was gonna consume the Kirby. The presentation was beautiful. It was literal art on a plate. Taste-wise, it was decent. The body was some sort of gelatin, which I wasn't too crazy about, but the rest was super tasty. I did my best, but he ended up looking like he was in a horrific accident when I threw in the towel. The cafe also has a special little private store connected to it, and yeah, what you expect happened definitely happened. We left with full bellies and bags, continued to look around the shopping center the cafe was connected to, and ended up walking into a gacha store. I am about to be very vulnerable with you here. This is one of the lowest points of my entire life. Please don't think too much less of me after what happened in that gacha store. So I walk in, spot Chicoa, beeline it to the machine, obviously. Like I mentioned before, I'm only interested in Chicoa, so I was only playing for him. But by the cursed luck of the gacha gods, I just could not get him. I was going back and forth between the machine and the coin exchange, getting multiples of every other little guy, but no Chicoa. I could feel the workers' glances at me, probably because the desk they were standing behind was right next to the machine I was grinding. But after way too much money, he dropped. I got my well-earned, horribly priced at that.
You're watching a toothbrush play Billie Eilish. But did you know that there's a YouTube Music app where you can also listen to the EDM version, the ska version, and of course, the original version? Get YouTube Music Premium.
At that point, Chicoa. I then started looking at all the other machines, putting some coins in a few here and there, until I stopped at one that had a line of animals playing band instruments. They were very silly, but there was a little pigeon holding up cymbals, and I really wanted to get him for Jordan and Kelsey. In went the coins. Tiger, elephant, fox. It was happening again. Everything except the one I wanted. Which I know more or less that's the luck with gachas, but it was getting to the point where I was getting surprised the pigeon was dodging me as much as it was. Surely the next one. What? Eventually, I had to go back to the coin exchange, and as I was about to put in more money, I saw out of the corner of my eye one of the workers peek out and take a look in horror at all the gachapons that were sitting at the top of my bag. They then raised up their hand and said something in Japanese while shaking their head, and I knew in my heart I was being cut off. No, please! I can stop whenever. Just a few more hits and I'm done. The pigeon is next. I can feel it. Why do you look afraid? What's under the desk? I got kicked out of a gacha store. I had hit an all-time low. I told my friends and they said they probably just thought I was gonna try and resell them, but I don't even know if that would even make it sound better, knowing I was getting so many that they thought I was robbing them blind. I just wanted my little Chicoa and pigeon with cymbals. We made dinner plans that night with a friend and we were just about to grab a taxi and head back to freshen up, but Jacob and I caught sight of a fun anime and goodies shop. Who do we think we are? People with self-control? We'll make it quick! We rushed in and split up for optimization. As I was looking around, I saw it. A whole section dedicated to Chicoa. It was like someone put a freshly baked pie on a windowsill, and I was suddenly floating over to it. My eyes were zoned in, making sure I saw every single thing possible, putting Chicoa after Chicoa in the basket. Jacob eventually came over and showed me a picture he took on his phone. In my tunnel vision, all my eyes registered was that the picture showed more Chicoa in the store. I immediately went feral.
Where? Jacob's eyebrows went up in surprise and maybe a bit of fear. And as I looked at the photo again, I realized Jacob wasn't showing me a picture of a different Chiikawa section. He was showing me a picture of me at the current Chiikawa section I was standing in because he thought it was funny. And in my Chiikawa brain rot, I didn't even register I was in the picture. I just saw more Chiikawa and went obsessive. This is how I am. Either stand by me or leave. No, I don't need an intervention. Put it away. We left. I looked longingly at the crane machine Chiikawas we didn't have time for, and we made it in time for dinner. Plus, we ended up in another arcade nearby anyway, and I got myself a Chiikawa from one of those machines. Well, it worked out. Stop. I don't want to hear it. Finally, we were reaching the end of our trip. We spent the last day grabbing lunch with Emily and Didus. There was a cool One Piece scavenger hunt event going on, so we also did that with them. We basically had to walk around Shibuya and find special One Piece trading card posters hidden around the area. And if we found enough, along with the special card of the day, we could get a limited edition mystery card. It was fun, but also hot. And all my clothes were sticking to my body. Didus generously let me borrow his umbrella, and I jumped for joy as he showed me it was coincidentally Chiikawa themed. I don't know what's wrong with me. All I know is that bear makes me happy. We spent a few hours completing the scavenger hunt, got our special cards, and bid them farewell. Always good to see you guys. Bye-bye. I accidentally stole Didus' umbrella. It looked so calculated. They knew how much I was obsessed with Chiikawa. They'd been watching my Instagram stories. Follow if you want to see brain rot in real time. Emily, I have the Chiikawa umbrella. I didn't mean to steal it, I promise. It's not what it looks like. Since we were leaving in the morning and wouldn't be seeing them again, they just let me keep it. But the side-eye Jacob gave me the rest of the way back. I didn't mean to... Stop it! Getting back to the apartment, reality hit us hard. We needed just a few more suitcases. Again. In total, we ended up buying 6 extra suitcases to hold everything we collectively bought. And even then, it was a struggle making it fit. Jacob ended up going professional Tetris mode, perfectly fitting everything into the suitcases with quite literally no extra room to spare. We came to Japan each with a backpack, carry-on, and 1 extra big suitcase. And we're leaving with altogether 8 suitcases and 4 backpacks. We were lucky the taxi driver had a big enough car to fit everything because we didn't have much of a game plan if it didn't. Off to the airport we went, where we checked all of our excessive bags, paid a couple fees, boarded our flight, and headed home. That trip will go down as one of the best trips I've ever gone on. It felt like it turned into a celebration of everything that makes me me. All of my hobbies and interests, Pokemon, One Piece, at the last minute Chiikawa. We got to do so many incredible things and were given so many opportunities I'd never even thought I could be a part of. I got to see so many friends that are normally so far away, ate some of the best meals of my life, and overall was just really happy, especially getting to spend it all with my best friend Jacob. By the way, if you wanted to know why in the world we got so many things, yes, a lot of it was for us. 90% of it all was for our friends. 100% of the Chiikawa stuff was mine, but that's besides the point. If you want to see what we got them, also credit where credit is due, the majority of it all is from Jacob, because he's a great gift giver and even more incredible friend to the people around him. We're all nothing short of lucky to be able to call him our friend. You can go watch his Japan video. I assume it's already up, because we had to animate a freaking 30-minute long video. My god, it was a lot. Thanks for sticking around. But yeah, I just had an unforgettable trip, and I owe the opportunity to the Pokemon Company for inviting us to Japan in the first place. I'm extremely lucky to be in the position I am, and will be forever grateful. The spirit world, supernatural, chakras, I'm different. Normally, I just don't mess with anything. Whether it's real or not, I'm here not gonna fool around and find out. I'm here to live as normal a life I can,
die, and then we can go from there. But I got curious. What would happen if I individually booked readings with a bunch of psychics? I mean, I don't even know what they do. I just know something about them being made of crystals and having 3 eyes or something. It's a world I've never explored before. Until today, I didn't even know what to expect. Would they all say the same thing, different things? Would they stand cursed and demand to put a ritual on me? Who knows? I booked a reading with 5 different psychics. Let's see what they all said about me. I wanted to keep as much consistency in all of this as possible, you know, scientific method and all that. So I specifically booked a tarot card reading and palm reading from all 5 of them. That way they're all reading the same things for me, and we get to be good little scientists in the supernatural community. Anyway, Psychic 1. I walked into the shop and saw a table with a bunch of candles and crystals on it, you know, the typical psychic stuff. Now, I've never gone to a psychic at this point. I didn't know what they were going to do to me. Were they going to say my name and say they've been expecting me? And for all I know, a real-life wizard could walk through the door and speak in riddles to me the whole time. But Psychic 1 was a 5-foot-tall, middle-aged white lady in a black spaghetti-strapped tank top and a ponytail. All the psychics had a bit of a different method of doing the tarot card reading, but the overall gist is they had me put my right hand over the stack of cards, say my full name, then I pulled 18 cards that would determine my reading. Psychic 1 pulled the cards herself though. I didn't get to pick them, so I don't know if that was a non-regulation move or all the other psychics let me pick my cards, I'm just saying. She started with what she read about me as a person. I'm my own boss and don't like being told what to do, which is like half true. Well, being my own boss is full true. Hi guys. In normal day-to-day life, I love having someone else tell me what to do. It's just nice to turn my brain off and put someone else behind the wheel. But with YouTube, it's true. I don't like being told what to do. With the Pokemon XD video, I was asking Jacob what I should do with the thumbnail, and he said I shouldn't have Shadow Lugia in it because it's not that eye-catching. And I was like, no, I'm putting Shadow Lugia in the thumbnail because I love Shadow Lugia. And then I did. So the psychic's pretty on point so far. He said I don't like asking people for things. Everything I have, I've worked to gain. I'm gonna live a long and healthy life beyond my 80s, and I'm gonna have 3 kids. All of those things are pretty fair. I do think you could say that to the majority of people though. Even if it's not genuinely true to their personality, I think most people like to believe that's the type of person they are. And if I don't live to be 80, what am I gonna do? Sue her? But that's the very strong skeptic in me talking. She do know me too. Then she asked if I had any questions for her, and I told her that I constantly worry that my birds are going to die in some freak accident or some disease, or they get out and fly away never to be seen again. She pulled more cards and said she sees that they're safe, but would recommend
Propel Energy Boost with caffeine, citicoline, and Gatorade electrolytes to boost your
Dungeons & Dragons is like a board game without the board, and you play using your imagination. If you think of something, it can just happen in game. D&D is very popular. Almost everyone I've ever met absolutely loves it, and I have never played it before, even though I always thought I would really like it. People would tell me stories of their games, like, so this one time me and my party were entering a cave, and there was a big ogre guarding some treasure, but I used my charisma stat to seduce him, and we ended up eloping together. Dude, if you don't think that sounds crazy fun, then I don't think we would get along, and you should probably unsubscribe. But if you do think that sounds fun, then hey. Sorry, I've never done that before. It felt weird. I decided to reach out to Charlie, aka Slimesicle, aka Charlie Slimesicle, because he's super into D&D, and we ended up forming a little group with me, Alpharad, Rongu as the players, and Charlie as the dungeon master, which is like the game organizer / manager / god. We all created our characters, and into the world we were teleported. The clouds part over a vast, lush forest. In it, a giant ancient oak tree can be found looming over all the other trees. The inside has been hollowed out, and a sign hangs on the side reading Old Oak Inn. Inside, many creatures of various origins are relaxing, drinking, socializing, but one stands out. A cat, equipped with various instruments, sits at a table, leaning over their cup of milk and scanning the room. They spot a dragonborn drinking at the bar, alone, seemingly pondering life. From the other end of the bar, a man in a suit approaches the dragon and starts a casual conversation. You know Mark? No, I don't. Who are you? I'm Paul. I'm an assistant manager at Ye Old Mart of Wall. 43 years old. My wife passed away during childbirth. My parents died. And my only child, Paul Jr., ran away at age 6. I'm living a deadbeat life, not even able to go up on the corporate ladder because my manager, Mark, prevents me from doing so. So here I am, drinking away my woes. I'm Zoo. Hi, excuse me, are you two new around here? Born and raised. So I've been stuck in time loop for what I believe to be the past 3 years. I've relived the same day over and over. I suspect my neighbor Thomas somehow trapped me here, but I don't know how to escape. I can prove it. Look, over there. In about 5 seconds, there's a 70% chance a waiter is gonna trip and drop their glasses onto the ground. Well, alright, a bit impressive, but, like, it's gonna take a bit more convincing because that wasn't all that. Suddenly, a sheep crashes through the tavern windows and starts rampaging around me. It's going straight up crazy, knocking over tables, knocking over people. Paul mentions it's got something in its mouth, and the sheep immediately stops and runs straight up to it. As Paul takes what seems to be a scroll out of the sheep's mouth, Zook whips out their mace in an attempt to pepper spray the sheep, but slips on a puddle of rum and accidentally sprays Paul, who just is disappointed at this point. The three open the scroll, and Zook, recognizing it's a speak with animal spell, translates it, casting a huge shockwave and blasting everything in its radius. Hello? Can you understand me now? Why the did you try to spray me with mace? Zoot and the sheep start bickering as Paul and Ptolemy just stare at them. Just forget it. I'm no ordinary sheep. I used to be human and I was cursed into a sheep's body. My name is Block, and I need your help to communicate. Please. Alright, well, it's more. Come on, guys, let's go. And for some reason, they all went along with it, still not understanding what the hell is going on. Maybe, they both thought, they could find their arch enemy, Mark and Thompson, along the way. The group is walking through the woods. All of you is very on edge, feeling like something isn't quite right. The tree line is shifting in unnatural ways. Oak trees are turning into birds. The bushes are rustling. Zoot spots various random animals along the path and picks up a turtle, which they add to their inventory. Paul tries to launch a turtle of his own, but it turns out to be a rock and is then mauled by a cougar. He ends up unharmed, though his adventure suit he changed into is now ruined. Zoot feels bad about Paul not getting a turtle, so they offer to let Paul name theirs, to which he chooses Paul Jr. They eventually reach a clearing with a large stone outcrop covered in engraved shifting ruins. Carved into the stone is a large bronze door with a face on it. Hello. Try to impress him. Oh, okay.
Save your groceries. For the love of food. Ziploc.
J's for Business is literally what it says in the name. It is J's for Business.
The alphabet goes from A to Z. But I from Z to A. Where am I?
The alphabet backwards.
The answer was zebra.
You already know Mario. I'm not gonna... As you know, most games are pretty flexible in terms of getting to go as fast, or slow, if you're lame, as you want. And honestly, it's pretty hard to limit that from players. Maybe you could turn the main character into an old man who has trouble walking or something, but that's not fun. At least in theory, I don't know. But you know the one video game genre that forces everyone to play at the same pace? Rhythm games. Rhythm Heaven is one of my favorite games, especially in the rhythm category. I played it constantly growing up, and I wanted to come up with some dumb excuse to play it for a video. So today I'm speedrunning a rhythm game. How does that work? In actuality, I have no idea, but this is what I laid out for myself. As the video game masochist I am, I wanted to make sure I had some sort of challenge capable of driving me to the brink of insanity, so I'm gonna be running the all medals category, which means I only have a certain amount of mess-ups per minigame before I fall from award-winning gaming greatness into low-life scum. And since I'm not running a game no one else has run before, I have some competition for the first time. There's a decent amount of runs already submitted, so to compete with them, I need to make sure I get first try medals throughout the entire game,
every time, all 50. I need to play 50 rhythm games in a row without messing up. I thought about going for an all perfects run, and then I did a test play to see how hard it would have been, and I was like, no, this would actually make me want to stop breathing. So here we go. This is my experience speedrunning the 14-year-old rhythm game, Rhythm Heaven Fever. For my first run, I just wanted to play through the whole game to simply see how it would go. You know, learn what I needed to practice, get my pacing. And you know what? It was kind of an insane first try. I only messed up on 2 games in the entire run. Figure Fighter 2, which is this game where you're a puny little shrimp man who gets inflated to punch a punching bag in front of a crowd of a couple hundred people. And Remix 10. Of course. If you've played Rhythm Heaven Fever, you know about Remix 10. The game organizes all the mini-games into columns, and after you play 4 of them, there's a remix that's like a medley of the whole column. It's genuinely cool, but for the last remix, it's a nearly 4-minute game of every single mini-game you've played up until that point. Like I said, very cool, but also terrifying from a speedrun perspective. Anyway, besides getting okays in 2 minigames, that means I was perfectly prepared for all the others, and I was shocked. That's not half bad. In fact, that's 96% not half bad. I even started thinking to myself, oh man, if I get this run faster than anticipated, maybe I can't even make a video for it. I was worried I would get it like attempt 2 and then not know what to talk about. Which, no, I do have a video for it. As you can see, I went into attempt 2 with a very heightened sense of confidence, ready to complete my run second try, and I immediately missed the first beat. Up!
Jada. YouTube Premium is ad-free YouTube. And YouTube Music Premium, a whole app just for streaming music, uninterrupted. YouTube Premium, it's way more than ad-free. Try 1 month on us. Jada.
So that run's dead. Attempt 3 was going alright, making a few more mistakes than normal, but was still doing well enough to keep getting medals. Then I got to Dunk Donk, which I hate. I hate it, and it's the worst one. You're this middle thing and have to dunk against the other things to make this blimp go fast or something. Honestly, the whole concept of this one is beyond me, but I was just barely missing the marks, and when I say barely, I mean I was still donking against them, but in a way that's like, I definitely didn't dunk perfectly. A few other games have this visual feature, and throughout the run, I was telling my friends Jordan and Kelsey, who were helping me take notes and keeping me company, and saying, I have no idea if that means I completely messed up or if it's a, that was a close dunk, but we'll give it to you type of thing. And then after the game ended, I need to like look up if that's bad or not. It is bad.
Apparently it's bad, Baby Jim.
Alright, well, run's dead. Well, alright, I guess I got that answer. I started another run after that and messed up at the very beginning before I could even do anything. The timer starts after choosing your new file and clicking yes when asked to continue, and then immediately after that there's a very long tutorial. But speedrunning strat, you can actually skip that pesky little tutorial by after clicking yes, immediately clicking the home button and restarting the game. See, this run is cool. It's got cool skips and stuff. Anyway, I missed the reset button. It's petty and not a big deal, but I restarted it anyway because why would I leave in an extra half second of time loss like that? My mental game for that run was already irretrievable. Attempt 5 was on its way until I messed up too much on Flock Step, the game where you're a bird within a group of other birds all migrating and walking at the same time. I got trampled. So yeah, it felt like I was only doing worse and worse. The first run was almost perfect immediately, and now it felt like I was losing my mojo. Why did I have to jinx it? Why did I have to think I was gonna be too good for this challenge? But then I got on this run. A run where I was doing better than I ever had before. Remix 1, Remix 2, Remix 3, I was getting perfects. Maybe the occasional 1 or 2 mistakes, but that was it. I was in it. The zone. Not that it mattered I was getting perfects, it still gives me the same normal medal, but I was doing well, alright? And it was an overall calm feeling too. I didn't mention it, but my very first run, I was on the verge of passing out or something. My anxiety was through the roof. I knew it didn't even matter, but the entire run I was having to take deep breaths and tell myself to calm down and stuff. My hands were shaking, but after a few runs, my speedrunning anxiety had disappeared and I was just calm and focused. Until I got to the end game. Then it came flowing back and it felt like my heart rate was so high I should have stopped immediately and had someone drive me to urgent care.
We need a doctor! She was trying to speedrun Rhythm Heaven. Isn't that a rhythm game? I started up Samurai Slice 2, which I was extremely worried about because it was the second time I'd gotten this far since the first run. I didn't mention it, but the actual reason I lost my second attempt was because of this game. So now there's trauma there. Jordan and Kelsey stayed silent so I could have maximum focus, and as I started getting into it, Jacob joined the call. Jacob, you're a very great friend, and I was very happy you joined, but oh my goodness, I was sweating bullets.
Hello.
Hello.
How's rhythming?
It's going good so far.
Jaden's in focus mode.
I assumed as much. How far is this?
I think we're about halfway.
We just finished Remix 7.
Nah, we're about 3%.
Oh, nice. How have you guys been?
Good.
I came in at a good time.
Oh, phew. I was sweating so hard. Phew! Alright, moving on. Honestly, still, I was doing really well. It wasn't until Love Rap 2 that I even hit my first 4 mistakes in one game. Very frightening, but I still squeaked by. Side note, I have no idea the technicalities of how many mess-ups I'm given per game. I was just hoping and praying the entire run. Then it was time. I was at Figure Fighter 2 again, the game that officially ended my first run. I practiced it religiously after that, desperately trying to assure I would never fail at it ever again. This game is deep into the run too. It's like one of the last 5 in the entire game, so losing at that one did sting quite a bit the first time. After lots of nervous pep talk to myself, I went into it. And you know what happened? I knocked it out of the park. From 5 mistakes that cost me the run, all the way down to 1. I get to continue on. Every minigame onwards was just exponentially heightening my anxiety further. I was doing really well, but that's what was terrifying me. I didn't know when the mistakes were just gonna hit, and it felt like any second I could kill the run. Because I could. I'm being completely honest, unfortunately, when I say this was probably the worst nervous anxiety I've ever felt in my entire life. A Rhythm Heaven fever speedrun. I was taking deep breaths every chance I could. It felt like I had chills. I would have liked to pause and calm myself down, maybe get a cold towel, but I couldn't because, you know, it's a speedrun. I was saying things like, I can't handle this. Oh no, I can't. My chest hurts. I feel like my ribs are gonna fall out of me. Okay. More deep breaths. Some water maybe. I hate this feeling. I don't want to live with this feeling any longer. Maybe I was starting to hallucinate or something, but it felt like I was literally having nervous wreck heart palpitations. Both scenarios are equally likely, but I was somehow keeping it together on the outside and made it to the grand finale. Remix 10. This was also the game I practiced the most, next to Figure Fighter 2, so I was technically prepared, but not mentally. I was falling apart mentally, crumbling if you will, but I had no time to try and calm down. That would be time loss, of course, so without hesitation, I had to start it. All things considered, even though I couldn't hear the game over the sound of my heartbeat, I was doing pretty decently, but then the first mistake hit. I don't technically know how many mistakes that counts for, but it's okay. It's assumedly the first one. Then it happens again moments later. This is what I was talking about earlier when I don't know if that counts as an actual mistake or not. Can I look it up? Does the internet have the answer? I don't know, maybe, probably, but I'm in too deep to check at this point, so I'm not going to. The run continues. It happens again. I wasn't ready for the switch to the tap dancers and missed my cue.
Boring gum. Fancy gum. Icebreakers. Ooh, fancy.
They literally harassed me in-game about it. It's all slowly falling apart now. I don't think I can make any more mistakes. Do I know for sure? Not at all, but that's what was filling my head at this point. I continue, and dear God, no. I missed 3 of the little dots. I'm sure it's over now. I don't know how many technical mistakes I've made at this point, but it just feels like too many. I'm completely in the dark now if I'm even en route to pass or not. I will add in my Remix 10 practice, at the very end there's a little credits minigame, you know, like the ones I skipped, where you tap A on beat to make the little mascot guy fly in the air. There's one part I just couldn't get at all, and that was the double tap where he does like this little roll into a jump. There wasn't a single time in training that I could get that part, and always missed it, and when I needed it most, did I get it in the run? No. That's it. I don't know how many mistakes that was, but it was too many. My heart sank, dude. All that work just to fail at the very end. All that anxiety I'm gonna have to relive. I just didn't know if I could handle it. Like, physically. I wasn't joking about the heart palpitations / hallucinations. All I could do was sit there at the foot of Rhythm God and wait for my judgment. I don't know. I don't know about that one. I genuinely don't know.
This one's be like, careful.
No, don't say it, don't say it. Oh my god! I did it!
1 minute or
That-
1 hour and 53 minutes.
That was so stressful.
Holy
Oh my,
cow.
I don't know how, but I did it. I finished the run. I was free. I officially played all the Rhythm Heaven Fever minigames and didn't fail at earning a medal first try on any of them at all. 1 hour, 53 minutes, and 1 second. That's my final score. How does that compare to the world record? Honestly, not even close. I don't really know how they saved so much time. My main guess is that playing on the Wii is much faster in terms of loading time. I was playing on a Wii U, and that could affect how fast everything loads. I don't know. But also, there's no way I'm gonna play on a Wii for YouTube. Do you know how crunchy that would make this footage? I'd rather take the time loss bullet so I don't have to cross my eyes just to rewatch my footage. So how does my run compare to the people who did the same run on the Wii U? Second best. And you know what? I'll take it. I have no idea how this guy ended up saving like 10 seconds, but being the second best Wii U Rhythm Heaven Fever All Medals runner is fine with me. I am settling and I am proud. Will I probably lose this record hours after this video goes up? Absolutely, but that's just how it goes. People message me for weeks, months after my Cooking Mama 2 speedrun video being like, Jaden, you're not the world record holder anymore. And it's like, yeah, I know. Thanks for rubbing it in. I'm trying to cope over here. Nah, I'm kidding. I'm actually really happy people started running Cooking Mama, especially the burnt pie percent. I felt honored in a really strange way. Anyway, after trying my hand in speedrunning a game that has a semi-active, honestly at the moment kind of dead, running base, I now realize speedrunning is terrifying, especially if content is on the line. I'd probably like it more if I did it for fun in my free time, but yeah, oh well. I'm happy I finished my run. Despite everything, I had a great time. And it just feels good knowing I'm half decent at Rhythm Heaven now. A skill that will be very useful. Absolutely never. I really still can't believe I almost had a panic attack because I was speed running Rhythm Heaven, but hey, just put it on the resume, I guess. Sorry the videos have been coming out more sporadic in terms of frequency. Honestly, the reason why is because they're just longer in general, which takes a bunch more time to animate. But they're fun. I like the videos. I think they're fun. Maybe if I just stock up on a bunch of videos for like 6 months, I can post regularly like a normal content creator for like a month, and we can all pretend it's normal and awesome. Just an idea, I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I appreciate any and all support you guys have for me. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
For the love of food, Ziploc.
Fellas looking for a quarterback?
Go! These do bring out my eyes.
Dix is the GOAT.
Hey, just wanted to mention you can buy our new Jaden Anime figure bundle on jadenanimations.com. Cool, thank you. Game shows. People's favorite way to fantasize about how to win a lot of money and look really cool in front of the entire country. Everyone is sat down in front of a good old Deal or No Deal and watched the middle-aged white people pick the obvious wrong cases while Howie Mandel just smiles. And if you were on that show, you could do so much better because lucky case number 24 has never let you down. Well, today I'm gonna live that fantasy and prove how easy it is to actually win money on game shows. With my friends Jordan and Kelsey, we're gonna simulate 3 of America's favorite game shows and see how much money we can collectively win. Let's see how hypothetically rich we could have gotten. The first game we tried was Family Feud. 90% of you guys know Family Feud, and I see you, but for the ones who don't, the show asks 100 random people survey questions, and you have to guess what their most common answers are to get points. I thought this was gonna be easy. Steve Harvey sets you up with a dirty question, you scream naked grandma, and then they give you money. But the moment this poser of a host walked out, I knew I was out of my element.
Up against the Ari Tofu. Let's play family.
That's not Steve Harvey. The game lets you build your family, and I was just gonna make me and my 2 birds, Ari and Tofu, and randomize the last 2 members. Looking back, I probably should have just made Jordan and Kelsey because they were right there. But somehow the game randomized to Walter White, so we just kind of went with it.
You can see them like the stretching.
Walter White!
That's Walter White! It's really him!
That's good.
Look,
That's
it's so good.
The prompt we were given first was name a president whose face appears on money, to which we buzzed in Lincoln, and the opposing family, the Hortons, answered Roosevelt. And America must have been thinking the same thing I was, which was, wait, Roosevelt is on money? Because we got the higher score and got to keep guessing more answers. We very confidently punched in Washington, which was first, and then realized we didn't have any more guesses. Obama? After 3 strikes of wrong answers, the Hortons buzzed Hamilton, which is stupid because Alexander Hamilton wasn't even a president to begin with. Everyone who experienced 2015 knows that.
Does that mean they steal all the points?
No,
if
Hamilton.
Well, like the
he wasn't
Alexander.
It's time for you to score some points.
If I know something, Hamilton is not a president.
Like the Graham Bell. Alexander Graham Bell. No.
They took all the points. BS, name a president. Alexander Hamilton. Ding, 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 ding. Here's all the points. America is so dense and uneducated, they are literally pumping wrong answers into Family Feud, and I am suffering because of it. Name a fruit. Hot dog. Going into round 2, we were down just a bit at 0 points to 96, but we swept the next prompt. Something that helps a baby go to sleep. Milk. Round 3 hit the fan again. Something you might lose as you get older. We were on a roll with hair, teeth, memory, hearing, and memory. We got a strike because I said parents, and even though that's literally 100% correct, guaranteed, it wasn't on there. There was one answer left we needed to figure out, and we came up with vision, which we were very confident in, but received another strike. Flabbergasted. I was hearing on there, but not vision. We threw out a half-assed walking, got our last strike, and it was given to the Hortons. Strangely enough, they ended up passing. Guess they couldn't think of anything. But you know what the answer was?
Ritz Fresh Stacks are for snacking go-getters. Where you go.
Strangely enough, they ended up passing. Guess they couldn't think of anything. But you know what the answer was revealed to be? Eyesight. America is so lucky the Hortons passed on answering, because if they answered eyesight and took all our points again after we said vision, it would have started my villain arc. With a strong point lead of 224 to 96, we are now entering a double points round. What's something people alphabetize? Names. Soup. 4 Americans thought they were being funny in the Family Feud surveys, and I am yet again suffering because of it. So the Hortons can play, but they end up passing again for some reason. That family only alphabetizes soup. We tried music, children, we ran out of ideas and just said soup again. Nothing was right. The answers ended up being address book, files, recipes, lists, and spices. Which spices I beg to differ. There's no way the typical American has curry powder and garam masala in the front. They have salt, pepper, and garlic powder, and everything gets shoved in the back until they die. So now we were on the last round, which was fast money. They give you one last prompt with one answer, and if you guess it, you get the chance to actually win money. Name something that runs on gasoline besides a car. I buzz in with a strong bus, which was incorrect. I'm not wrong though, I see you going to the comments. Google says a bus is a separate vehicle from trucks, cars, vans, lorries, etc. It is not any of them. That's what Google says. Lawnmower. Dude, whatever. All we proved was America's bogging down family feud with their stupid wrong answers. I don't want to win that dumb freedom money anyway. With $0 in our pocket, we moved on to The Price is Right. I've actually never watched this game show before, so I was learning as we went. 4 lucky contestants from the audience are given a random item, and the closest one to guess the actual price of it without going over is selected to come up on stage and play more games to earn money. And I learned that even if I was one of the lucky 4 people selected, I wouldn't even get the chance to be on the actual show. The game gave me 6 chances to be the closest one to the price of the items, and I lost every single one. But hypothetically, even if I miraculously was the winner and taken on stage, I still would have won nothing. I tried twice for content and still ended up with $0. So we're entering our last game show of the day, and we've got a whopping $0 to our name after being on 2 of the most popular shows created. We really need to make this one count because I am going to look like such an idiot if I was on 3 game shows and came back with 0 money. We walk out on stage. The spotlight finds us. Jeff Foxworthy raises the microphone to his mouth and welcomes us to...
Stressed out? Time to refresh your rhythm with Trident. Trident Gum, the fresh chew to refresh your rhythm.
I have never played Fortnite, but we're going to be playing a lot of it today, so buckle up. Guys, I have a brilliant idea. What if we do the In My Feelings challenge? What do you think? What's the In My Feelings challenge? It was that dance people did outside of their moving cars in 2018. That's stupid. I know! It's weird to me that YouTube Rewind 2018 came out over 5 years ago, which makes it old enough to be something to reminisce about. There's a fresh generation of iPad kids who don't get to experience the yearly tradition of coming together as a community and watching the newest YouTube Rewind. And absolutely hating it. In case you all forgot, the website YouTube.com used to make these celebratory videos showcasing all the important events and memes that had happened throughout the year. And all these YouTubers would get together and do a silly little dance, and everyone had a grand old time. And since these videos were produced by the very platform you're currently watching this on, rewinds would always receive a lot of attention. Now, according to my memory, YouTube rewinds were pretty well received. At first. But you see, as time went on, the general public and the YouTubers involved started to grow weary. People were throwing around words like cringe, and this isn't what YouTube represents, and that's that. That's that. And it all accumulated to YouTube's magnum opus, YouTube Rewind 2018. Everyone controls Rewind. Hashtag YouTube Rewind. Which is a video that was so universally hated that it holds the world record for most disliked video ever. A record it will now hold perpetually because of the whole dislike thing. The audience wasn't happy, the YouTubers involved weren't happy, until finally YouTube snapped and was like, alright, fine, if no one wants it, we'll stop doing it. We were just doing this as a favor anyways. And so YouTube discontinued the Rewind project indefinitely, with 2018 being the last time we ever got a rewind.
What about me, James?
How dare you even consider yourself worthy of being called a Rewind 2019?
A top 10 video? Really? At least 2011 had Rebecca Black hosting.
Leave 2019 before I tell you the top 10 ways on how I'm gonna hurt you.
So getting back to the actual last YouTube Rewind, you know, the one with the most dislikes in the whole world, if we skip to 3 minutes and 2 seconds into that video, we see,
guys, let's do the In My Feelings challenge. Oh geez, that's me.
I know I'm a little late to the party, but since we've all had enough time to grow and reflect as people, I would like to finally share some of my thoughts and experiences working on YouTube Rewind 2018. The first thing I want to talk about is how none of the YouTubers involved got any type of monetary compensation. At least none of the ones I talked to did. This was a big issue that a lot of other YouTubers had in their expose videos, but I personally was not bothered by it. Was I getting paid in exposure? Yes. In fact, I actually lost money doing this because I had to get my friend Rush to animate some of the scenes, so I, paid him for his work. But what I'm trying to tell you is that as much as I'm about to complain about YouTube Rewind, don't feel any sort of empathy for me, okay? I did this to myself. I think the best piece of advice I could give you is that if YouTube ever reaches out to you and is like, hey, do you want to be a part of Rewind? You should say,
a man who works hard sweats hard.
Old Spice rider fights sweat, so coach thought I was slacking.
Hey, do you want to be a part of Rewind? You should say, let me read the script first. But I didn't know that in 2018. And I also didn't know that in 2017. If you look at YouTube Rewind 2017 and watch all the way to the end, keep going, right there in the credits is me and Jaden doing a floss in space. It was a lot cooler back then. They also wanted all the animators to animate our characters in the middle of a Jello fight, and I think they wanted to put our cartoon characters over footage of real-life YouTubers in the middle of a Jello fight, but they gave us no direction, and I don't think they ever filmed a scene where they were like, okay, real-life YouTubers, remember to leave that spot empty because that's where the animated guy's gonna go. Because they gotta plan that kind of stuff out ahead of time, right? So instead, they just threw our unusable animated Jello fight with no background at the very end as this extremely out-of-place post-credit scene. So 2017 was pretty uneventful for me. I was in YouTube Rewind, but, I was in the credits. Who's gonna stick around and watch the credits, But 2018 was gonna be my year. Rewind wanted me back, and this time they were giving me a speaking role. Holy shit! My line was going to be, guys, let's do the In My Feelings challenge. And then the YouTuber Swoozy, who would be in his real-life human form, would say, right? And then we'd fist bump Who Framed Roger Rabbit style. So do you remember that trend in 2018 where people were doing that dance outside of their moving car? Well, apparently that was called the In My Feelings challenge. Back in 2018, I didn't even know it was called that. I thought it was called stupid. Now, if you've at all watched YouTube Rewind 2018, Everyone Controls Rewind, #YouTube Rewind, you might be wondering why after I specifically suggest we do the In My Feelings challenge, that not a single YouTuber or talk show host can be seen dancing outside of a moving vehicle. That's because YouTube didn't want to promote unsafe behavior. So they didn't want to show anyone dancing outside of a car. So they weren't really doing the challenge then, were they? YouTube, if you don't want to promote unsafe behavior, don't promote the In My fucking Feelings challenge. Kids are still gonna look up the In My Feelings challenge and then watch multiple videos of people dancing outside of cars on YouTube. We don't want to promote unsafe behavior. It's on your platform, dog. Looking back, that should have been my first red flag, but I was still optimistic. I was so excited to be a part of this huge project, and I knew there were going to be a bunch of YouTubers involved, but I was going to be one of the few animated ones. I was going to stand out. I was going to be the odd one out. Knowing how Rewind handled animation in 2017, when they asked me to be a part of 2018, I told them, hey, love the line, but I think it would be a good idea if we met in person, and that way you can show me everything you're planning, and I can ask you all the right questions. and they agreed and invited me to visit the set the day they were filming Swoozie's line. So I was there, physically behind the camera when Swoozie said, right? And then fist bumped nothing. I got to experience what it was like to be on a real film set with actors and directors and costumes and catering and makeup, and it was a lot, honestly, for just one line. And maybe it was because they had booked Swoozie for a full hour, but they had this beautiful man say, right? And then fist bump nothing no less than 50 times. It's one line, guys. I think we got it. And then after like take 87, my stomach sank when the director said, okay, Swoozie, how about you try saying, guys, let's do the In My Feelings challenge.
Wait a minute. That's my line.
Are we changing it? Which line am I animating now? Do you want me to do both, just like how you got Swoozie to do both? And what, oh, you'll pick your favorites? I asked the director right there which line was I animating, and he said he was going to let me know. And then we went outside and filmed Swoozie dance in front of a brick wall, and which parts of him dancing was I going to animate my guy next to? He said he was going to let me know that too. So I took all the information I learned that day and referred it back to the other animators. What they wanted were 2 shots. They wanted 5 seconds of our characters dancing, and they wanted another shot of all of us sitting around a campfire singing horribly. After doing some quick math, I realized that if all 7 of us animators did a 5-second dance, that would be 35 seconds of cartoons dancing, which for a YouTube Rewind would be a lot of screen time. I had a sinking feeling that they weren't going to be using our full 5-second clips. And they didn't even let me know. Now, for my life-changing speaking role, I had to record my line on my own, which normally wouldn't be a problem. But in late 2018, I had just moved to California, and I didn't have my own setup set up. And to make the whole situation worse, I was only given 1 week to finish my animation and record my line. So, the clock was ticking. Now, I think the second best piece of advice I could give you is that if you're ever in need of a quick jerry-rigged sound booth, go into your closet and hide under a comforter. In fact, hello, real-life human James here, coming to you on a Blue Yeti inside of a bathroom. The acoustics in here are terrible. Could you imagine voicing a cartoon character in this? Guys, let's do the In My Feelings challenge. See, it doesn't work. All right, and now we're here inside of our makeshift sound booth, and you can hopefully hear the quality change right away, like, guys, let's do the In My Feelings challenge. See, we don't need expensive sound booths to have a good time.
This is Mia. She dreams of taking her boutique swimwear brand nationwide. With her business growing so fast, she needs fast funding to keep making waves. That's why Mia has U.S. Bank Business Essentials, a combination of checking and card payment processing, giving her access to funds typically in 24 hours. Because we love watching her make a splash. That's the power of Mia, and this is the power of us.
But back in 2018, I wanted the most important line in my career to be recorded in a professional sound booth. Luckily, I was in luck. You see, California is one of the few places home to something called a YouTube space. A YouTube space advertises itself as a place to aid content creators, providing them with facilities to create content for their YouTube channels. And to access said facilities, you needed at least 10,000 subscribers. A little weird they put a number on it, but I get it. I had just moved to California. I knew I was going to be hitting this place up all the time. When I first went to the YouTube space, I didn't call ahead or set up an appointment or anything because there wasn't an option to do so on the website, but I figured they would have to help me out, right? The line I needed to record was for a YouTube Rewind, and you're a YouTube space. Like, Susan personally asked me to be here, So I drove an hour to the space, I went inside, showed them my sub count, and they said that in order to use the facilities, I had to fill out all these forms on my computer back home. But it's for a YouTube Rewind. Then I drove another hour back home and started filling out the forms, but by the time I got to the quizzes, I realized, I think this wild goose chase is probably going to take longer than a week to resolve. With time running out, I gingerly asked my new friend Aaron if I could use his setup, and he said yes, and I didn't even have to show him my sub count.
I mean, I showed him anyway, though. So the line you hear me say in the 2018 Rewind was recorded in the Game Grumps office, which I think means, at the very least, Game Grumps deserves to be credited in the description of Rewind. Come on, YouTube. They were the only ones who took me in when your own company turned me away. The deadline was fast approaching. I mean, it was fast approaching as soon as I got it, but I've been in crunch mode before, and I'm sure the nameless video editors were just trying to hit their impossibly tight deadlines too. I reminded myself what I was making all of these sacrifices for. Everyone was going to unanimously love this video and what it represents, and look at my channel afterwards and subscribe. December 6th, 2018. A day that changed history. It was raining that day. The world was exposed to what YouTube had been cooking up. And they all collectively hated it. Like, a lot. Like, to the point where I would be lucky if I didn't lose subscribers. I think the audience knew that none of the YouTubers involved had any say in the creative process. We were just reading our lines from YouTube's script, you know? So at least I get to say I'm in the most disliked video in history, and no one's too mad at me. Right? So, was all of this stress worth it? Now, I got paid in exposure, and the exposure was overwhelmingly negative. In fact, I think Rewind was only positive for one other YouTuber. Do you have any guesses? Jaden motherfucking Animations pulled off the biggest prank of 2018. One of the reasons